Start the game already.
Start the game already!
Do you dream of nuking your closest friends and simultaneously sending a barrage of submarines and battleships towards the remnants of a base? Well, if you also enjoy the occasional biggest gun wins game, can I introduce you to Supreme Commander Forge Alliance, featuring giant fucking robots? So, to explain quite simply, I've never played the single player version and never will, because the clankers will never have me bow down to them. So, we can move on how the game works and what you need to do. Simply join a game, spawn in, and click on your commander. Select a factory for one of the three options air, land, and navy, and begin building engineers. Start collecting your energy using energy generators, and start collecting some mass using the mass extractors. And now, you need an army. The rest, I hope you're smart enough to figure out. Moving on to factions. Firstly, the United Earth Federation, the best early game faction due to their increased HP, but suffer in the terms of their top of the line units, aka the experimentals, which are rather squishy and vulnerable, though they always have a great range of fire. They have four experimentals: the Fat Boy Mobile Factory, which is a mobile factory and can be used to liberally apply the four Gauss cannons alongside other goodies located on the factory. This is one of my favorites personally, and it is quite powerful compared to some of the rest. The Atlantis is also the next experimental, allowing 150 air units to be crammed into it while also having the ability to go down like a submarine. It can also produce tier 3 air units and generally rock any unaware player's shit. The last two experimentals are more game ending and correspondingly much more expensive to build, both being stationary buildings. The experimental artillery and experimental satellites. Both can rock your world if you let them. The Edgy Red Boys, or the Cybrants, are the closest to a Zerg faction there is, having the lowest build cost of any units, but alongside that, lower HP than any other faction, meaning they can effectively be used in early game rushes, and their ability to disrupt enemies with certain units like the Tier 1 artillery. Also, having the only mobile stealth field generator means you being an absolute unit that can also produce eggs that can be turned into select Tier 3 land units. Their experimental, the Soul Ripper, is a giant beetle-shaped gunship, which is strapped with enough firepower to level your local city council hall in about 80 milliseconds. Finally, the Cyberns also have access to an experimental artillery, the Scathis, which whilst not delivering excellent damage, is a great way to prevent your opponents from effectively exerting control within its firing range, which is the entire map. On to the Green Missile Enthusiasts, the Aeon. Overall, the Aeon units are average in everything except firepower, oftentimes being the winner in equally matched fights due to higher DPS and initial shot damage. The Navy is also top tier, having more HP and greater firepower than any other faction, including the only submersible battleship of any faction. They also have my favorite unit of the entire game, the Tier 2 guided missiles, which are a great tool to destroy friendship and start wars between neighbors due to a mass extractor being mysteriously destroyed and enough gaslighting. So, what fancy experimental units do we have for the Aeons? Now, we have a giant UFO that beams out a death ray, which the only downside is the squishy nature of the experimental, rendering it rather weak to anti-air and anti-air superiority fighters. They also have access to a giant robot, which is the Galactic Colossus, which is able to crush units and factories under its feet, equipped only with a phase-on laser and no anti-air or torpedo weaponry. It does one thing and one thing only: fuck up everything in its way. The submersible battleship Tempest is also a great experimental, but all of these can be safely ignored until one builds the Paragon building, which is basically an infinite resource generator allowing you to keep building without running into any slowdown. Just make sure to keep it well defended, and keep your commander next to it. I promise, it'll be okay. Next, the Sleek Seraphim are a nice mix of specialist units and general use case units, having the highest second build cost and HP relative to all the other factions. They also enjoy the privilege of having the only Tier 3 mobile shield, meaning you can enshroud your mobile heavy artillery in a nice walking shield whilst you pepper your opponents with a liberal dose of freedom. The normal stationary shields are also beefier and physically larger than the other factions, at the cost of them being more mass and energy intensive. Their Tier 3 stationary anti-air, however, leaves much to be desired. With 100% accuracy, they are great for taking down spy planes, however, their damage is accurately described as hot dog shit. with their Tier 3 Navy cruisers compensating for this effective lack of anti-air. The experimentals definitely do not lack character or power, with their flavor of giant robot having two phases: the normal phase of giant killer robot, and the secondary uncontrollable stage where the ghost of the unit takes out anything within its path. Their flying experimental, the Ahwasa, drops an absolutely earth-shattering bomb upon every salvo, with the damage being enough to destroy a non-upgraded ACU from the Cyberns and Aeons in one shot. Not so bad, eh? It's also 2.5 times faster than any other flying experimental, meaning they won't catch you even though you will have a coalition forming against you. Finally, the Seraphim get access to a fancy experimental nuke platform, requiring 2 defensive missiles to knock it down compared to the usual one for the Tier 3 nuke platforms, whilst creating the nuke is significantly faster than the Tier 3 variants of other factions. So, time to explain my pick for favorite faction and why the Green Boys have stolen my heart time after time. And it's not just for the Navy, because I'm so trash that I usually forget about boats right until cruisers start making my neighborhood look like Chirac. For one, it's one of the first factions that I tried to play, and I don't know if it's the early onset dementia, but I can't remember if it was them or the United Earth Federation. Secondly, the Tier 2 missiles are my go-to build. If there is one strategy I will always abide by when I'm playing the Green Goblins, is to ensure my opponents feel the drone warfare like they're in the trenches of Kuplansk. The experimentals are also another level of ridiculousness, with the Tsar Bomber being effectively a flying fuck you to anyone else who wants to pretend they have air superiority, with the squishy aspect being prevented by a massive Tier 3 fighters, which will deal with anything coming your way before you can even start to worry about it. And before I get people crying that they don't have enough resources, and if you don't have enough space to get it done, you can always build a Paragon, which I told you about early on in the video. That, combined with the fact that they have a Tier 3 unique building, which allows you to view a small portion of the map constantly for a mere measly 5000 energy, is a fair trade-off instead of sending one spy plane to get viciously slaughtered for a few seconds of vision. Of course, every unit's sacrifice is deeply important and always required for the glory of the motherland. Now, whilst I've sat here and explained all the factions and their quirks, you've probably thought to yourself, okay Darcy, this is great and all, but what else does this game provide other than the satisfaction of nuking your long-term gaming buddies? Well, first off, I believe a solid RTS game is the perfect occasional matchup between friends. Considering my internet connection is regularly beat by carrier pigeons, playing high-intensity FPS games like CSGO hurts my modem like the kidney stones that tore up my urinary tract. However, Supreme Commander allows me and the homies to engage in war crime level shenanigans without wanting to enlist in the US military, and for that I am eternally grateful. Besides that, there's a continuing stream of support from the Forge Alliance Forever community, commonly abbreviated to FAF, where new players like yourself can sign up and join the online community and begin getting your shit pushed in by players who have been actively nuking others since 2007. I, personally, am in love with the game due to the fact that it has kept my friend group connected through nearly 10 years now, with year-long pauses in between where we have played the occasional CS match or Age of Empires, which, while both are enjoyable and great games in their own right, don't manage to scratch the same nostalgic itch as Forge Alliance does, and it's very difficult to convince my lizard brain of anything else. Lastly, I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and particularly Kicking Jube, who told me about the audio issues in the last video, who got me to buy a pop filter and fix up the audio. So thank you very much, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye bye.